Good afternoon. I'd like to tell you all about my first crime. Now, most of you don't know me, so you're just going to need to take my word that friends and family would generally describe me as someone who's fairly grounded, moral, principled, kind of squeaky clean, actually, and not a criminal, delinquent, or villain. I was actually labeled a goody-goody when I was in high school, straight A student, and never even tempted by even a cigarette, I must admit. And yet, 5 years ago, I committed a felony. Now, whoever said woohoo out there, we're going to talk later. I looked up felony in the dictionary recently, and it's pretty serious crime, like robbery, rape, murder, with pretty stringent punishment, much more so than for a less serious misdemeanor. In 2009, I was working as a global energy consultant in Cambridge, and I was asked to chair a conference on private equity and energy in London and deliver a keynote speech on climate change. I was also working on an article on energy trends that was due the day of my departure. So in my rush to finish my article and pack and head to the airport, I underestimated Boston traffic and missed my flight. So I headed home, rebooked my flight to Heathrow, waited several hours, and then headed back to Logan. When I was at Logan, I checked in at British Airways, handed them my passport and my bags, and followed the throng. I waited at the big international line for departures and handed my passport to the uniformed official and was pointed in the direction where to head. And then I glanced at my passport, and much to my astonishment, I realized it wasn't mine. Now, here was my dilemma. I'd already missed one flight, and I knew I didn't have time to go back, exchange my passport, and make it back to Logan in time to get to Heathrow for my conference that I was chairing. And I figured, well, 2 people have already looked at my passport. Maybe I'll just keep going and see what happens. So I kept going. And the next stop was by the conveyor belt, where you take off your shoes and get your computer out. And I handed my passport to someone there. And then I was stopped. And I thought, ugh, the gig's up. But it was just a stray bottle of water that had singled me out. And I was once again on my way. At the departure gate, I handed my passport to the British Air person, and they looked at my passport. And then I was sauntering with glee to my seat, thinking, oh my God, 4 people have looked at my passport, and I'm going to get away with this. I'm going to London. And so then the panic set in, and I thought, shit, what am I going to do when I get there? And so I had several hours as I flew over the pond to stare at the Atlantic and ponder my dismal options. Option 1, I could admit my mistake and hope that some bureaucrat would take pity on me and I could beg and plead and they would let me into the country. Or option 2, I could knowingly pretend to be a 9-year-old child with a completely different name than on my ticket and hope to get away with it. So after some deliberation, I decided I might have better luck with option 2. So when I landed with my heart literally beating so hard I thought it was going to jump out of my chest and that everybody could hear me, and my sweaty palms, clutching onto my embarkation card, I staked out, the customs officials to see which one would be mine. And as I was 2 feet away from this pale, lumpy, middle-aged woman with a Cockney accent, and I handed her my documents, and she looked at me and she's starting to ask me questions, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I have brown hair, but I don't look anything close to 9 years old. And the date 2000 is looming big and bold and black, kind of math for dummies on the passport that I'm holding. And then she says, literally 2 feet away from me, like this close, are you here for business or pleasure? Business. And how many days will you be here? 4 days. And where are you staying? Oh, such and such hotel. And then just as I was going to cross the threshold, she says to me, Carraher Kang, what an interesting name. What kind of a name is that? And I nearly choked on my response as I somehow managed to stutter out, Irish Korean, and then I was on my way. So I have to tell you that one can certainly question my actions. Was it hubris, stupidity, lack of ethics? But one should certainly question, our travel procedures and people who are clearly just going through the motions. And I only have to say I was only glad I had not grabbed my son's passport, which showed his smiling infant face. Thank you.